Testing. Good evening, guys. How you guys doing? Hope you are well. Just sharing out this video real quick. We are going, or I was going to say we're going live. We are live. Good evening. Let me just pull up the chat. Hold on a minute. Here it is. Two Hit to Wound. Good evening. Living Ghost, Mark, Victoria, Acrio, Josu, Evolution of Gamers. Good evening, guys. How you guys doing? Sorry, I'm a bit later than normal. Just finished putting the baby to bed. Have been celebrating pretty intensely this evening with the Scotland victory. I don't know if any of you guys are into football, but Scotland had a great victory earlier, so that was cool. So happy days, time to do a bit of painting. Hope you're well. Let us know in the chat what you're working on tonight. If you are doing some hobbying, I'd love to know about it. And so my granddaughter's 16th birthday. Well, congratulations. I hope I'm alive for my granddaughter's 16th birthday. My family has not got a good track record of males staying alive for a long time because of cancer. So, but congratulations, Mark. Hope you have a great day. Cool. I thought I'd start by, so I rimmed a lot of these guys' base, like their feet, and I'm always really messy when I'm rimming them. And also these are those base extenders, which you can see here clearly, like there's a base extender. So my plan is to use this texture paint, and I'm going to put a lot of it onto these models to try to mask the fact that three of these guys are the old metal models, and they are on base extenders essentially. So that's where I'm going to start tonight. I've been needing to base these guys for a little while. I've got a bike captain going on tonight, says Acreal. Congratulations, join the club. Bike captains are awesome. I love my one. I don't know how I would win games. Like, I win so many games because of that bike captain. He's brilliant. Deciding what to work on, I've got a full plate. No, I hear that. I have a pretty big backlog of stuff myself. I've just been doing these Terminators of late. I've been enjoying doing them. Terminators are not that popular at the moment. Good evening, Jeff. How you doing? Howdy. So I have a really old knackered brush here that has, like, the bristles on it are just terrible. So that is where I'm going to start. I'm going to use that for my... Some people like to use like a basing tool, but I just tend to use like a really old nasty brush. It will mean at some point during this stream I'll need to go and clean out my water, because this texture paint obviously has a lot of like grit in it and stuff, so my water will get super filthy. So just bear with me if I have to go clean out my water. But yeah, I like the GW texture paint. It's pretty easy to use. Been building my armies on parade board today. Only one DIY injury, doing pretty good for me. Congrats. I managed to get a pretty nasty splinter today. I'm still packing my house we're moving a week Monday, so I guess like not this Monday coming, but the week after, there'll be no live game on that Monday night because we're literally moving house on the Monday. So I hope I'll have time to still film a video for Friday, but it might be a quiet week for me. We'll see how much of a nightmare this moving house is with a pregnant wife and a 2-year-old. I can't imagine it's going to be super easy, to be completely honest with you guys. So we'll see how it goes. But when I'm using this texture paint, I like to get like some really big clumps up. I really like it to feel like there's quite a lot of grit on my bases, I guess. Like, so the way I do this is I always wash. Like, the texture paint takes ages to dry, so probably not going to. I was going to say probably not going to coat over it tonight, I imagine. But I always coat over it with like Agrax Earthshade, and then I always like to dry brush it as well. And when you're going around the feet, you're inevitably going to make some mistakes. Some people don't mind that, I guess, if they make mistakes. Some people like their models to feel like they're on the base and they're in the dirt, essentially. If I hit the feet like I just did there, I'll go in. Like I generally I don't know if it makes total sense that my models are all super clean and they're on these rocky, dusty planets, but it's just the way I've always done it. If I make a mistake and touch the feet or anything, I will 100% go back and touch up the feet. It's probably one of the reasons it takes me so long to paint all my damn infantry. I guess I'm a little bit of a perfectionist like that. On Wednesday, my chapter master on a bike brought home the win against the Tyranids. Congratulations. Yeah, that chapter master on the bike, he's really difficult for enemies to kill. I take it you run him with Gift of Foresight and Adamantium Mantle. I mean, to me, that is a great combination. I love it. He's so good at Angel's. If you run him with Armor and Indomitus as well, he's like so good for Angel's Sacrifice. Like, he generally. I think he can. Unless the enemy has a way to remove his invulnerable save, he can generally almost tank like any enemy, or even big squads. Actually, he can tank them as well. I think against Andrew's army, he tanked like maybe like 24 Sacrosanct -4 Strength 5 hits or something. Like, I love that chapter master on a bike. Makes me sad that I don't run Commander Dante anymore, but like the chapter master is just too good. Good evening, Robert. It was a bittersweet day. What happened, Robert? How? Good evening. Thanks for tuning in. I moved house with a 6-month-old, an 18-month-old, and an 80-year-old granny. Worst thing ever. Not moving again until the care home. Yeah, they do say moving house is like the most stressful thing you can do, and when your wife's pregnant and she literally can't pick anything up, it's pretty stressful. To her credit, she has really been helping, but it's still just stressful, I guess. I've been moving a lot of stuff into self-storage, and yeah, I've been doing that for like 3 weekends now. My God, I don't know how we've got so much stuff, honestly. I know baby stuff takes up a lot of room, but we have so much stuff. And then I've had to do like loads of runs for my Warhammer models because like, if someone broke into my house, they could steal my television, they could steal my computer, basically they could steal anything. As long as they don't steal the Warhammer models, I'm happy. Because the Warhammer models are like the thing that I've spent the most time on in the house. So if I had to lose all the time I'd spent on the Warhammer models, I think I would actually cry. So yeah, I've been moving the Warhammer models. I mean, I get like 2,000 points in the box, you know, like my carry case. So I've been filling it up, moving them, coming back, filling it up, moving them, coming back. Greetings, Tony. How you doing? Good evening. Greetings, Camille. Hope you're well. Our big game moves have been nerfed, yet there are small gems that you can build to make the army crazy. The Warhammer will be worth more money. Yeah, probably. My computer is a bit of a potato. So yeah, so these are the old base extender ring. These are old Terminators, metal Terminators, using these base extenders. And this is what I like about the texture paint, is like it's got a bit of a, well, it's obviously got sand or whatever inside the paint. Now if you put enough of the texture paint into these, like, I guess, I don't know what else you would call them, the rims between the base and the base extender, like you can almost mask it. Like, you know, like if you look here, I mean, you can still, if you look closely, you could probably tell that there was a base extender there. You know, if you look underneath, you can 100% tell there's been a base extender attached to it. But if you put enough of the texture paint into this join here, like this, you can almost completely mask up the join. So that's why I like those base extenders. You know, if you've got any old models that are on the wrong size bases and you want to do it quickly and cheaply, I think the base extender with the texture paint is a very good way of doing that. I think you could always, like, if you look closely, you'll be able to tell. But if it's like battle ready force, which is usually how I like to run my lists, battle ready, I don't know if you can tell without. Maybe you guys can tell, but I mean, it's pretty hard to see, right? Do you think you will design a Flesh Tearers 2,000 point list one day? Your inputs would be great. I did think about. I don't have Gabriel Seth. Do you know what? I have this voucher to spend £10 on Warhammer from the Warhammer Plus that I need to use by the end of the month, and I have no idea what I want to buy. So maybe I should take the plunge and just finally buy Seth. You know, the thing that puts me off Flesh Tearers a little bit is like I rely a lot on that +1 to charge from the Blood Angels Red Thirst rule. Like that +1 to charge helps me out in so many games. It also helps out a lot in Deep Strike as well. You know, like Deep Strike from an 8 feels so much more reliable than Deep Strike from a 9. I guess you can do that with the chaplain or whatnot, but yeah, I mean, we could build a Flesh Tearers list. I think if I was going to build Flesh Tearers, it would be quite different to what I run right now. I think I would want a drop pod. I think in the drop pod you want like I've made a right mess of that. I'm gonna come in there with another brush. Hold on. See if we can get some of that paint off there. So yeah, like I said, if I get the paint on the feet, I will go back and try and tidy them up and try and make it. I think you want the drop pod with Seth, right? And like company veterans, probably company veterans or Death Company, and maybe like a company champion with like a icon of the angel, so that everything in the drop pod can reroll their charges. I think that's how I would, if I had to set up a Flesh Tearers army, that's probably where I would start. Because I quite like the idea of dropping Seth in. I'd probably run like a 10-man Death Company as well. The whole idea is that like you just overload them with those threats in turn 1, right? So you drop in like the Seth and his veterans. Maybe veterans with Seth would be fine, and then turn 1 Death Company, Forlorn Fury, and then also like pick Relentless Assault or whatnot, and maybe even like forward deploy like 2 squads of Incursors or something. So it's just all about getting the enemy into close combat early. Maybe even take that that plate that lets your like lets a Terminator character advance and charge. I mean, that's a pretty cool, unique relic that they've got, the Flesh Tearers. Crimson Plate, I think it's called. I'm doing well, Dave Pikey. How was your trip to Disneyland, by the way? Sup, Lord Lesijek? Boom. Firstborn, huh? Yeah, Terminators. The very, these are actually old metal Terminators from, to be fair, I've probably had this squad of Terminators since about 1995, so they've probably been not painted for. Do you know what? They were painted badly, and I started them again because, like, a lot of stuff that I painted when I was a kid was painted pretty badly. So these guys did have a coat of paint on them. I just resprayed them and started over. But yeah, these would have been Terminators probably. These guys are probably like 26 years old or something. Like they've lived in a box, or they've lived in an unpainted and a pretty poor state for far too long. And I've actually been having a little bit of success with the Chain Fist Terminators on the table. I've been enjoying playing them. I think I might actually have a squad in my competitive list. And my competitive list is very different from other people's Blood Angels competitive lists. But do you know what? My lists, people don't know how to play against me apparently, and I tend to do not bad. So yeah, Firstborn metal Terminators from 1996. We've got some ones mixed in, like for example, this is one of those Space Marine Hero ones from just a few years back. But I'm gonna go over this custom base with the same texture paint anyway to try and keep them sort of feel consistent. Robert is working on a Primaris chaplain. Gonna need them now that Grim Adolis rules a mess. I haven't looked too much at the Black Templar rules, but the codex creep that people are talking about is definitely real. It feels like every new codex in 9th edition has a lot new mechanics and a lot of strength, I guess would be the fair way to say it. Like they're just giving a lot of the new codexes a lot of strength. I mean, they want to sell models, right? But like, I kind of wish there was a little bit more balance myself. Any thoughts on doing a video on beating / countering AdMech? Disneyland was awesome. Abused the hell out of my daughter's autism pass. Rise of the Resistance was amazing. Do you know what? I actually had tickets to take my family to Disneyland. Not Disneyland, sorry, Disney World. It was going to be March last year, like a month after the whole pandemic started. But like, fortunately, I guess Trump did that thing where like everyone that wasn't American was like banned from going to America. Like they closed all their borders or whatnot. So like my travel insurance paid out and I got all my money back. But yeah, I was supposed to be doing all that Rise of the Resistance and stuff last year, but I guess didn't get to. Hello Martin, good evening. I guess the thing about AdMech right now is, like, in my opinion, some of their units are just too cheap, right? Like, and I mean, I could make a strategy video on them. I could, but like, I think their planes are too cheap. I think the Skitarii are too cheap. Like, they're just in a weird place, AdMech, right? Like, whoever wrote their codex really loved the AdMech and wanted to make them really powerful, which I guess is fine, but like, yeah, I think they're in a position where like they do need an FAQ to bring some of their stuff down in power a little bit. I mean, some AdMech players I'm sure will disagree with me when I say that, but I think this tournament that just passed, the London Grand Tournament, where the game was over in one turn, not one battle round, one turn. The AdMech player went first. He took his turn and that was the final. And the opponent just quit because he couldn't win because AdMech did so much damage in turn one. And I mean, the opponent deployed all his stuff in obscuring positions, right? Like the guy had obviously won like 8 games in a row, right? Like he wasn't a new player. He was an experienced player and he got shot off the table, or he got shot so badly by AdMech in turn one that he felt like that was it, game over. He didn't even take a turn in the final. How anticlimactical was that? You fight all the way to the tournament final, and then when it's actually your turn to go in the final, you don't even get to roll a single offensive dice. It's just like the game is over before I roll a dice because AdMech are so overpowered. So yeah, I will make a video on AdMech when I actually think they're balanced, if that's all right, Dave. But right now, yeah, I would probably say like the Skitarii shouldn't be allowed to be in squads of 20s. They should like 15 max, especially if you're going to be able to put all those stacking buffs on them. They need to be at least 1 more point per model, because I think at the moment they're like 7 points a model. They should go up to 8, or if they were 8, they should go up to 9. They're still too cheap. They do too much damage for how cheap they are. And then they need to do something about the flyers. The fact the flyers, you can have 3 of them. So you can spend like 450 points on flyers. I think it's 490 points. And between them, those flyers can do 30 mortal wounds per turn. And they have guns as well. I just think that's, 30 mortal wounds at a 45-inch range. It's just broken. I don't see how people, when they were making that codex, didn't think, wow, this seems a bit broken. I know we tend to focus on gameplay here lately, but I've been super into lore, alternating between 2 podcasts and picking up the Indomitus Crusade books. Do you know what? I do focus on gameplay, Victoria, but I do like the lore. I have read a bunch of the Blood Angels books. I'm actually reading the Horus Heresy series at the moment. The problem is sometimes I get distracted in the middle of books because I don't always get time to read, you know, like with the family and stuff. So if I don't get time to read, what inevitably happens is like I lose my place in the book. But I was halfway through that first Horus Heresy book. What was it called? I think it's called The Siege of Terra. I really need to finish it. I was decently into it, and yeah, you know, I'm really hoping in the future we get a new Dante / Mephiston book. Like I enjoyed Darkness of the Blood, but I'm hoping we get a new book that kind of sets us up for a new Primaris character. Because I think we just, you know, Black Templar is getting like 10 different Primaris characters. You never know. I mean, it's weird because last edition, Marnius Calgar got those 2 Victrix guards in a box. Like Marnius Calgar became Primaris, and in the box you got like Marnius Calgar and those 2 Victrix guards. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm excited. Blood Angels are going to get like a new box with like Commander Dante Primaris and like 2 or 4 or 5 Sanguinary like Primaris Sangard. And I was like super excited that that was going to happen. And then I guess it never happened. I don't know what that means. Like, I mean, the Black Templar box should maybe give us some hope that, like, hey, here's another Space Marine chapter that just got a giant Primaris release. Maybe one day we'll get a giant Primaris release, because the current Primaris releases we've had aren't the greatest, I guess. Mephisto's really hard to make work in 9th edition, you know that? And I think it's... Yeah, I just think that the Librarian with a jump pack is kind of easier to make work, and Mephiston doesn't have the killing power he had before, and I think I tried playing Mephiston last week and like using him as like a offensive character with killing power, and he doesn't have it. So if I use Mephiston again, I think I'm going to have him like I'm going to play defensively with him, because offensively he just isn't what he was in 8th edition. Like in 8th edition, I'm sure in one of the games I played against Andrew, I had Mephiston like charge a Leviathan Dread solo and just kill it like in a single turn. And I don't think... I think that was after he'd gone Primaris, but before we'd got our Codex. I think that must have been 8th edition, yeah. Grimaldus has 3 servitors that are now classed as characters and you cannot split them in the game. That's 12 points for assassination. Yeah, okay. I mean, Celestina's got that as well, where she's got like 2 characters and it counts like 9 points for assassination. I hope they don't do that to Dante, because if they do that, they make him useless. Like, you know, you're trying to pick a list that doesn't give away a lot of points. Picking one character that has like 2 bodyguards that count as characters is... It's pretty hard to make work, I think, because you're always likely to have another character or 2, so straight away you're giving away like the full 15 points for the assassination. But I know that they re-released those Indomitus. They retconned that Indomitus Crusade story. I should probably read that at some point. The one where it's like Ultramarines versus Death Guard. Because they just released like a new version of it. But yeah, I like the lore. I've been watching a little bit of Warhammer TV as well. I've been enjoying the new Angels of Death series, but yeah, it's just time. Unfortunately, I have to prioritize what I do with my time. I hang out with you guys in the stream and do some painting, and then I play competitively, and I do not have as much time as I would like for the lore and stuff like that, I guess. But, you know, I'm liking Chain Fists. At the start of 9th edition, when I realized Chain Fists were going to be D3, I bought a bunch of them. So this is the fight. This is a project that was started almost like 2 years ago at this point, probably, where I was like, I think Chain Fists might be good. Terminators are such a solid choice. Thank you for your support, Macadale. I appreciate it. Oh, let me throw the chat up on the screen so people from Twitch and YouTube can chat together. Cool. Evening, James. How you doing? Evening, Mark. Nice to see you. We got 2, John. We got 2 what? Sorry. yeah, we got Primaris Death Company, which are poor, and we got Primaris Death Mephiston, which are poorer, right? The unfortunate thing is the Admech Flyers being so badly broken is probably going to lead to the Admech Flyer nerf being a boost to anti-air weapons, ruining everyone else's flyers further. I mean, they shouldn't, but I wouldn't be shocked. They just need to I think they just need to reduce the amount of mortal wounds that those flyers do for the points. Put them up like 30 points or something, so that you can take like 1 or 2 of them in a list, but not so you can have like 4 of them, or sorry, 3 of them. It's just kind of stupid. But I mean, the other flyers that the Admech have as well, the ones with the Cognus las cannons, are pretty good as well. Like, Cognus las cannons make Space Marine las cannons look terrible. I don't know why. I don't know why they made the Cognuses so good, but I guess they did. So maybe they need to go up in some points as well. I don't know. I mean, Dakari Raiders went up 10 points, and they weren't. I don't think Raiders weren't even on the same level in terms of how broken the stuff is. Lowers a crutch. I mean, it can be, but I mean, as a successor chapter, you can't really use the named characters anyway without taking another detachment, right? Which I actually don't think is right. I think that I think they should have made it that like successor chapters, like so, like you could take, because other races now don't really suffer from too many downsides. Like, for example, Admech can take like Lucius and Mars without any problems. So maybe for Marines, if we could have taken like, if you could take like Blood Angels and Flesh Tearers in the same or the same army, like 2 different detachments, and not lose anything, because currently you'd lose like your Super Doctrine if you did that. Like, if they got rid of that rule, that would be pretty cool. I think it makes sense as well, right? Like, you would think that the successor chapters would fight with the main chapter when it's required, because, for example, the Tyranids are coming to kill Baal. You know, in that book, all the different chapters fought together, didn't they? Because we had to defend Baal from the Tyranids, so... I have the honor of killing an Avenger Strike Fighter with Mephiston in combat back when he kept his wings till the next psychic phase. If he could still do that, he would counter Admech Flyers. I forget, what did they change with his wings? His wings just lasts for what? The psychic phase and then the end? And he gets the movement. He still makes the 12-inch move, but what happens now? The wings just last through the psychic phase and then they're gone, is it? So he can't charge flying things, basically. You know, I knew that wings had changed, but like, because I haven't been running Mephiston, I never paid too much attention to it. But yeah, so Mephiston lost like a bunch of attacks that he could have. He lost the ability to fight twice, and he lost the ability to charge flying things. No wonder no one runs them. Like, you know, characters from other armies got like all these mad buffs, and our best Primaris character got 3 nerfs. I really wanted to make him work. That's why we ran him this week in the live battle. I haven't swapped out what's in my case yet, so I might run him one more time and play him way more defensively and pick more defensive psychic powers like Unleash Rage or Blood Boil and stuff. We might run him one more time. I haven't decided. I don't know who I'm playing on Monday, so I mean, I guess that will let me know. Our new Crusaders are going to be interesting. 25 points for essentially a Vanguard vet with no jetpack, but 1 extra attack, all armed with power swords. Well, they start with chain swords, but it's only 3 to upgrade the swords, and they ignore the debuff rules from vows. Okay. I mean, the vow rules seem pretty cool, actually. I think the Black Templars will be pretty cool, but yeah, I mean, that's my whole point. Like, if we could take like a detachment of another chapter to help out, fill like a weakness, that would be... That might might go some way in sort of helping deal with some of the current meta issues, but I don't know. I think I really do think those AdMech flyers need recosted. Alright, one more guy to get texture paint on, then we'll do some real... Oh no, two. No, one more. Maybe? Are we going to put some on this guy? No, we'll leave this guy because we're going to paint this guy a little bit. So one more guy we'll put texture paint on tonight, and then we'll get some real painting going. A last wall type of setup. What do you mean a last wall type of setup? Space Marine las cannons are terrible. Not even in comparison to Cognis ones. They need to either change that to D3 plus 3. Yeah, I mean, I don't know many Space Marine players that are still running las cannons, to be honest. Like, I don't have any in my list. I mean, just D6 damage is unreliable at the best of times, and like, the las cannons used to be decent on like the relic contemptors, I guess, because you used to be able to do like 4 shots hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s, but like, I guess relic contemptors got nerfed, so in a way las cannons got nerfed. I don't think there's really a good way to run las cannons in Space Marine armies at the moment, and even if you found a good way to run them, they're only D6 damage, which is... There's too many times when you have D6 damage and you need to roll like a 3+ to kill a model, you end up rolling a 1, right? It's just too unreliable. Good evening, Rezio. How are you doing? Hope you're well. What I'm doing to start with is filling in these base extender rims with texture paint, because this stuff takes ages to dry, because with these base extender rims you want to clart it in there to get rid of the fact that they're a model, an old model and a base extender. So I try and clart it in there and let it all like dry out, and then you don't even know that you had this model on the wrong size base. You can tell if you look very closely, but for the most part, I think people aren't really going to notice. Oh, right, when Blood Angels come together to fight a common cause. You're right. Yeah, I think you're right. I think they should have rules like that. It seems stupid. I mean, maybe like if people are running 5 different detachments of 5 different chapters or 5 different successors, then it becomes, then it needs... But maybe if there was a rule where you could take one detachment from one different chapter or something from a successor. Because like, for example, would it not be cool to have a Blood Angels army with Seth in a drop pod and Dante leading your jump units? I mean, I think it would be cool. Might actually make me want to run Dante just for a lower reason, I guess. Why not just rip them off the bases and rebuild them? I mean, you can, but these are the old metal ones where they're actually like glued in and stuff like that. And the price of those base extenders is pretty cheap, right? Like it was like, I think it was like 10 of them for like $3.99. So like the hassle of just like sticking the bases extenders on them and slapping on some super glue to glue the models into the base seemed like way less hassle than ripping these old metal models off the bases and potentially damaging the models and their feet and stuff, because some of these old metal guys will be like super glued and the super glue will be 20 years old. I mean, maybe laziness has something to do with it. I just thought it was an easy way to do it. And like, now, so this guy is on a base extender because you can obviously see from underside, but the whole area of the base extender, which is there's so much texture paint and stuff on there now. As I say that, I just make it more obvious that there's a base extender on there, but there's so much texture paint on there now that I feel like once this paint dries, you won't even know that he's on a base extender. I mean, you maybe be able to tell, like I said, if you look really closely and you see underneath these old metal feet that there's little gaps and stuff, but I think it's fine. It keeps my army unified, and I like to be unified, I guess. But yeah, I mean, if you just go into eBay and search like easy base extenders, I actually have a video about them on this channel because I thought they were so good. I've got quite a lot of old models that are on the wrong size base. Even my Dante was on the wrong size base. I think he was still on a 32. Sorry, no, he was on a 25 and I need to put him onto a 32. That was it. I just went in the process of rebasing 10 Sanguinary Guards from 25s to 30s. I think they're supposed to be on 32s. I hope you mean 32s because I don't think they're supposed to be on 30s. Hi stream, what's everyone working on? Says Anthony. Good evening, Anthony. How you doing? Saturday night is like unofficial work on Blood Angels night. Let's make it a thing. Every Saturday night you have to work on Blood Angels. Come hang out, work on Blood Angels, make it a thing. I'll just clean off some of the extra that I got on these guys' feet real quick. Okay, yeah, 32s, thankfully. I have like 120 orc boys that need new bases, and I can't still bring myself to do it. Well, see, that's the thing. You could just buy 120 base extenders, you could snap them all in, you could put a tiny little bit of super glue in each one, and you could be done in like 20 minutes, right? I actually have like a couple of characters where I just put the base extenders on and didn't like the characters were already painted and already based, so I didn't bother putting the. I didn't bother texturing them like this, and it actually doesn't look too bad at all. I would show you, but all my models are away in self-storage, so I can't show you. But trust me, it doesn't look bad. I highly recommend these base extenders. I'm going to go and grab some clean water because I'm finished doing texture paint, yeah. And yeah, I'll just be back in like 2 minutes. Look at the state of this water. Alright, dirty paper stream towel is the best. Thanks. That's what I thought. That's what I was going for tonight. Dirty paper towel stream. Anyone else take forever just building the models? I don't take forever building the models, but I take forever to paint the models. I believe I spend about 8 hours on every guy, and my results are probably pretty average at best, so yeah. Maybe don't take forever to paint them. Sure as hell take forever to. Sorry, don't take forever to make them, but sure as hell take forever to paint them. That's my claim to fame. It looks like the Marines had too much Taco Bell. What with the texture paint? When it dries and you go over it, it actually does end up looking pretty good. Do you know what another trick you can do, Mark, is when you move them to the bigger bases or whatnot, if they're old in metal, you can like super glue like a I don't know what country you're in, but in Britain we like super like 2p is quite a big piece, like quite a big coin. I actually don't know in America if the two. Do you get a coin that does 2 cents or is it just 1 cent you get in America? But on some of my bigger models, I've like glued coins to the bottom of the base, like in here. Just like glue a coin underneath, and that'll give them like a bit more balance. If it's a metal model and it's like leaning forward too much, glue a coin to the back or something. It generally works pretty well. Am I alone painting models on sprues? I take forever to paint. I don't paint on sprues because I always find when I get them off the sprues, I end up making mistakes and stuff and damaging. I never feel like they come off the sprues as nicely as I paint them on the sprues. Nickels glued underneath. Yeah, nickels is probably right. Is probably the right. Do you know what? It's probably quarters. I know that much about America. I know quarters. So our 2p piece is probably the size of like a quarter. So what we would do is we'd glue the 2p, or we'd glue the equivalent of a quarter to the underside of the model, so that they've got quite a lot of stability. I'm still getting used to. So where did you move? Where were you from before you moved to America, Dave? Sometimes when I'm painting these guys, like I don't have any reference for colors in front of me. Like I don't know really what his axe is supposed to look like or anything like that. So like I guess I just have like my scheme or the different paints that I use in my Blood Angels army, and if in doubt and if I don't know what I'm doing, then I just then I guess I just fall back to colors that I know. And that's what it feels like. I feel like I was going for something different with this Tech Marine Force Axe, but as it's developed, like I couldn't quite figure out where I wanted to go with it. So it's kind of just developed into quite a silver or a lead belcher axe, I guess. All right, you moved from Wales. A quarter were broke enough paying for all these models. Well, that's why in the UK we use the 2p piece. I have to make small corrections anyway once the model is built. I want the detail. I want to get to the detail easily. I mean, that's fair enough. When I first started painting, I tried to use sub-assemblies, you know, where you basically you have the model, you have it off the sprues, but you have it like stuck to like cocktail sticks or I guess toothpicks. But I ended up making such a mess of them when I stuck together. I just do the best as I can when they're fully assembled. I think I take my time and I always try and go back on mistakes and I try and get to the hard to reach areas as well because I've got this magnifying glass which helps me. So people usually are pretty nice about my models, even if maybe I don't think they're the greatest. But yeah, don't worry, guys. I'm never winning Golden Demon on this channel. But I am going to do a painting competition. I was talking about it the other night with Tony. We're going to do a painting competition for Blood Angels. We'll probably announce it within the next month or so, and we'll have some sort of unique Blood Angels model to give away. Painted by my friend Evan over on Origin Painting. So we'll do a video with Evan, and we'll have a little. Maybe we'll make it like an annual thing. I took about 2 hours to build a Tetmarine the other night because of all those crevices need to have tiny mold lines sanded out. The Primaris Tetmarine is a pretty cool model though, isn't he? Like some of these new Primaris models are pretty cool. As much as it pains me that we're not getting any new Firstborn releases, it feels like ever. And also the Firstborn's rules are kind of being left a little bit. You know, like it sucks that we can't use transhuman on any of our Firstborn. So as much as that all pains me, I do like some of these new Primaris models. They're a lot of fun to paint. I like the scale for painting the Primaris models is really nice as well. And I know they're only like 5 or 10% bigger than the actual Firstborn, but when you're actually painting them, it feels like they're quite a bit bigger, I guess. Good evening, Dirty Sponge. Have you tried to combine Northern Blue and Stormhost Silver to put on a blade? I think it looks nice. So I usually start my blades, and you can see this blade here with a coat of the Fang. And that's usually how I do all my blades to start with, and then I'll edge highlight with something like Chronos Blue, I think, which is actually an edge paint. And then after that, I'll probably give it a wash of I usually use Guilliman glaze. I actually think I bought the Guilliman glaze to paint lightsabers because I also paint Star Wars miniatures from time to time. I haven't painted any in a while, in fact, almost 3 years, but I do have a bunch of Star Wars miniatures, so when I paint them, I use the Guilliman glaze to try and make the lightsabers come to life a little bit. But it turned out that I kind of like it, and I use it for most of my power weaponry now. This forge bolter has been a nightmare. I don't know why it's been such a nightmare, but the paint on it, maybe I'm just touching it too often. Because I don't use a painting handle, so I do end up rubbing away some of the paint that I touch because I touch it quite a few times, but I'm in the UK, and yes, coins works, but I've always found that with the metal jump pad troops, any uneven ground they would fall over. Yeah, that's true. Even with a coin underneath them, those jump units love to fall over, don't they? The metal ones, anyway. That is, they just love to fall over. You think Firstborn will go to Legacy about when 11th edition is released? Yeah, I mean, I think at some point they probably will. I'm not sure I'm happy to commit to an actual edition. But yeah, you're probably right. At some point they will get made Legacy, I guess. I work in the principle that if I can get a brush in there, then I probably can't see it that well anyway. If I can't get the brush in there, yeah, I mean, that's probably a good principle to have. If the brush doesn't reach, then it's probably pretty difficult to see it, right? What do you think would happen if Call turned against the Imperium and pulled an Order 66 move? Um, I have no idea. Uh, aren't they sort? I mean, I suppose the gods of chaos are always trying to make a mess of things, aren't they? So I think there's enough heresy in Xenos in the lore that they probably wouldn't change the alignment of one of the main factions, right? I mean, they might, but like I feel like that'd be a pretty big. I think that would be a pretty big change. So I'm not sure I could see it happening. I mean, there's some questionable bits in the lore anyway that probably like just because the lore is so old at this point, you know, like the bit where like what is it like 10,000 souls need to be sacrificed to the emperor every day to keep him alive in his stasis chamber or his throne or whatever it is, like that bit to the lore feels a little bit like that's dated and probably just needs reworked completely because it sounds pretty in a time of politically correctness like the world is in when you've just got like an emperor that needs like thousands of people sacrificed to him daily. I don't know if like if that was written now it would be it would be pretty questionable, I think. Um, my metal on Martis is perfect. Greetings, James. How you doing? I'm making some finishing touches on my Blade Guard veterans. Use the 6 models to proxy Lieutenant easy. Yeah, that is the one cool thing about the Blade Guard veteran Lieutenant. He is literally the perfect proxy for another Blade Guard veteran, isn't he? Because he's literally got the exact same equipment. Seems perfectly legitimate grimdark to me. Yeah, I mean, I guess it is perfectly legitimate grimdark. I just don't know if it would fly if they were trying to write it nowadays, I guess, right? Sometimes, like you say, Tony, when you can't get your brush into it, you can just leave it. But sometimes when you can get your brush into it, and it's really awkward, it's super annoying. Uh, I think they're still writing worse nowadays. Really, they did end Warhammer Fantasy in a similar way. I never actually read how they killed the old world. I actually have the book, but I haven't read it. I think it's just called. I think the book was just called it. It was like a. Do you know what the whole series was like the end times, but there was an actual book maybe about Abaddon going and blowing up the world, right? I'm sure I have it, but I never actually read it. But they are bringing the old world back, right? Like they've said as much. There was an announcement a little while ago, and they do keep talking about how like the old world's going to be back. I don't know what that means. Does it just mean that like anyone that has the old models, like for example, like Tomb Kings, can maybe play again, and maybe like maybe some of those models will be available again, but like via Forge World only or something. I actually really don't know what it means, but I guess there was enough fans of the old world that like they kind of had to bring it back. Did you see the Black Templars Vows and Passions? I did see some of them. I saw some of them that were posted on Warhammer communities. If there was leaks, then I didn't see the leaks, but I did see some of them that were posted on Warhammer community. Some of them look pretty cool. I guess in some ways they're a little bit like the AdMech Doctrinas or whatever they're called for AdMech, where they give like one positive status and like one negative status, right? So they seem pretty interesting. But like, I do think Marines are kind of in a tough place right now in general, right? Like, we can win games, and obviously, like, I prove every week that we can win games, but like, our codexes don't feel quite fully 9th edition, how some of these other chapters or some of the other armies' codexes feel like very 9th edition codexes with like a lot of strength and a lot of bonuses, right? Yeah, I saw. You're right. There was one that basically said like they could always have their units in Assault Doctrine, which is probably what Blood Angels players would really love, right? Like we would love to be able to not have to worry about like waiting 2 turns through combat and through tactical and devastator doctrine, right? Like if we could just choose to start the. I know you can't go back the way. But like if we could just choose to start like in turn 1, maybe in tactical or something, rather than always have to start in Devastator, so we can get to assault quicker, like that would be pretty huge for us. But yeah, it's interesting that they can have an ability to just let them get assault doctrine straight away. Maybe it means that it's not, maybe that's a good thing, because it means that like in the future we will have better rules for stuff like that. The Templars got a huge nerf. How did the Templars get nerfed? Tell me, Camille, because I haven't read it all, or I haven't seen it all. I had a pretty busy week at work this week, and with the moving house, I have actual forms that I need to fill in for the moving house that I've not even done yet, that need to be scanned in and all this sort of stuff. So I am out of the loop. Yeah, there is a. You're 100% right. I was excited when I knew that we were the early codex, but like I was naive. The early codex is not. It's not good to be one of the first armies to get your codex in a new edition, I guess. I mean, I feel like if we got our codex now, they probably don't remove, because they removed a bunch of good stuff for us, like Red Rampage and stuff, right? The new Red Rampage, I have never used it. And I don't know if that's just because the armies I fight against, but like I just don't know if I feel like it's that good. I would much prefer Red Rampage was the way it used to be, where it was like up to D3 additional attacks for a character. I think the one now where it like on 6s it can provide AP is like most of our stuff's usually high enough AP, so high enough AP to make enemies take invulnerable saves anyway, so what's the point? Blood Angels don't have to have any flavour this edition. I don't know if I would say we don't have any flavour. I mean, we still have our flavour of being a jumpy army that can do a lot of damage in melee, but it's not as good as it once was. That's I think that's for sure. And I think you have to, if you're going to run that all melee army, you have to, you either need to know the terrain you're playing on, or you need to be like super on point. Because I think I think it's very hard to win games with a full Blood Angels melee list at the moment. It can be done, and Jack Harper or Harpster, sorry, is showing that at big tournaments it can be done as well. But to me, I don't like it. I think it's a bit one-dimensional, and it can be countered. Thanks for tuning in tonight, Clint. We'll see you at the Army show. Thank you for subscribing, James Atkinson. Nice to get another subscriber. I love Blood Angels lore and flavor. Kind of wish some of the strongest units were not firstborn, though, as I'm a big fan of Primaris only armies. I hear that. I mean, there's a lot of people I think that are fans of Primaris only armies. I think that's very difficult to make work with Blood Angels right now, honestly. So if you're trying to do it, then I mean, more power to you. But yeah, it's almost sad that they haven't. Maybe we need to look at this Black Templars box in a positive way, right? Like the Black Templars just got all these things. Maybe Blood Angels will get a release where like they look at all of our characters that aren't getting used, and they look at all of our firstborn units that are getting used, and they go, right, like we need to do a serious bit of work on these Blood Angels. So maybe that'll happen. Like I guess that's maybe what we can hope for. I mean, it'll suck because it's like $125, but I guess if you gave me the choice between having no release and a big, massive $125 release with a bunch of our characters getting redone, I guess I would take the release where we're getting all of our characters getting redone, right? So yeah, maybe it's only a matter of time before we get a proper Primaris overhaul. You can make your Primaris only army, Grim. I guess if you hate Primaris, then you have problems, because it seems like all Games Workshop want to do is push Primaris Marines now. If you look at their battle reports on their Warhammer Plus, it's just all Primaris stuff when they show Space Marine stuff off. Even the garbage Primaris stuff, like those Hammerfall bunkers and stuff, they're showing. Yeah, it's just they're pushing Primaris so hard. Like I said, even the garbage stuff. I pray to the God Emperor for Primaris Sanguinary Guard. Yeah, a lot of people I think would like Primaris Sanguinary Guard. I think if they got 3 wounds, that would be really interesting. And I think they probably should have 3 wounds, because that was the whole point of the Sanguinary Guard before. They had an additional wound, right? And they had the better armor save. So hopefully, if Primaris Sanguinary Guard come along and they've got an additional wound, and they have that better armor save, then probably everything will be right with the world, in my opinion. That will be a very good release for Blood Angels. That's maybe all we need to be a bit more competitive, is like a Primaris Sanguinary Guard with 3 wounds. Because I think there's so many 2 wound weapons out there right now. It feels like in every game, it feels like everybody I play against when I'm playing my Marines is like stacked with 2 damage weapons. It feels very rarely Marines end up taking like 1 damage. It feels like. Yeah, I thought so too, Victoria. I was convinced that Sanguinary Guard would get the 3rd wound. I think the only reason I can see that they didn't do that. Thank you, Dan Pack, for following. Maybe the only reason they didn't do that was because they had like Primaris Sanguinary Guard as a thought or for the future. You know, like they're like, well, if we give the Sanguinary Guard 3 wounds, how do we do the Primaris Sanguinary Guard? And Primaris Marines can have 3 wounds. I mean, look at Blade Guard Veterans, right? They have 3 wounds. They're no, like, why do they have 3 wounds over a regular guy? You know, they're just, I guess they're just tougher Primaris Marines. I really don't know, I guess. So maybe there's scope for 3 wound Primaris Sanguinary Guard, and we just have to hold out hope for that is something that comes at some point during this edition. I don't think we can put any scope on it because, like, we're a year and a half into this edition, and some factions still don't have their codex, which is insane. You know, like we are literally a year and a half into this edition because didn't this edition came out July last summer? I mean, the only thing I'll be annoyed with, I guess, is if they do 3 wound Primaris Sanguinary Guard, I'll need to buy like 30 of them, I guess. I don't know. You'll need probably 2 squads at least, I guess, right? I'm sure that would be basically a license for Games Workshop to print money if they did. Primaris Sanguinary Guard, 3 wounds. I actually don't think they need anything else. I think they just. Do you know what? 3 wounds and a 5+ shrug or 5+ invulnerable, and then that would change the dynamic of Blood Angels. That would make us so good. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think Sanguinary Guard are good as we stand. I just think that their armor is like paper. Like every game I play, my Sanguinary Guard are dead, and like the second the opponent gets line of sight on them, they like throw so much weight of fire at them. They just capitulate. They can't survive. The 2+ save that they used to have is not a 2+ save with no invulnerable component is not a good save anymore, I guess. Well, Dante wanted to go, spoiler alert, Dante wanted to become Primaris at the end of the book that they released with the Blood Angels Codex last December. Like there's a whole chapter where Dante was like, he was ready, Dante isn't healing or something, was what they said in the book, right? Like he's wounded and he's been spending time in like, I guess it's like a sarcophagus, right? He's been spending time in his like chamber that usually heals him. I think it was a sarcophagus, or maybe I'm getting confused with Stargate. And he's not healing, so like essentially, I guess they didn't. I don't think they said in as many words, but I guess Dante is now dying in the lore. So he wanted to do the Rubicon Primaris because he thinks it will revitalize him, and he still needs to serve the Emperor. And Dante's actually had this vision of a golden angel like fighting to protect the Emperor. And they've been talking about that vision for a while. So I guess at some point there'll be a battle where a golden angel is going to protect the Emperor. I mean, so I guess like is the Indomitus Crusade going to come to a halt and Chaos are going to push back or something? I don't really know. I mean, I'm not a huge lore guy anyway, but I guess the interesting thing would be like if Dante's seen this vision of a golden angel fighting to protect the Emperor, then like, is it him or is it like is it the next chapter Master of the Blood Angels? I'm not so sure. Someone in the lore someone that knows the lore really well, or someone that's super into the lore in chat. What do you think of all the, because they keep referring to Dante seeing this vision of like him and the golden, he keeps seeing a vision of a golden angel protecting the Emperor, right? And he's not sure if it's him, I think, was where it was left in the book. But also he's dying, so like what, I did a video on it as well a few months ago about like, should we get like an updated Dante? Would that be something that people wanted? And like the community really wanted it. I was like, we got like 700 votes and like, I think we got 700 votes and like it was like 81% of people wanted to see like a reborn / Primaris Dante. It can be him or Sanguinius, yeah, because apparently Dante spoke to Sanguinius in the warp, right? Like that was something else that they alluded to. Dante thinks it's him, but he's worried that it's his arrogance speaking. Good evening, Chris. Yeah, so I think it's probably... Does anyone know the amount of time that passed between Darkness in the Blood and Devastation of Baal? I don't mean in terms of the time that passed in the timeline. I mean more the time that passed in like real world time. Like what year did Darkness in the Blood come out? And what year did... you know, like, I only read them like a couple of years apart, I think, but maybe it's just because like I was behind. Well, right, like everybody knows, I took a break from the hobby and only came back in like 2017, I think. I've only been back for like 5 years. They just need to drop Tycho and upgrade the rest. Yeah, Tycho is sort of a running joke at this point, isn't he? Because like, I just don't know how they... I just don't know how they ever... I don't know anyone that ever plays Tycho, I guess. Yeah, he is sort of the running joke, I guess. I think on the army list show we've done like... How many armies? We've been running the channel for about a year and a half. Maybe not quite. A year and a few months. A year and a third, maybe. So we do like 4 or 5 army shows every weekend. And I think we've seen maybe like 1 Tycho, maybe less. Hello, sir. Does a list with 6 times 3 Outriders make sense due to field control and maneuverability or mobility? I hate Outriders, man. I think they're overcosted. They used to be 130 points per model, or 100. They used to be 135 points for the squad. Almost 92, and now they're 150. And I didn't think they were good at 135, so. I wouldn't even run 3 Outriders myself. I don't think they're competitive. I really don't. Some people disagree with me. Some people might think Outriders are okay. I think most people on this channel have seen some of the videos I've done on Outriders, which kind of stand on the side of like Outriders are generally not good. They're just chainswords in close combat, so they literally don't kill anything except easy targets. So in that case, if you're going to run 6 of them, you're going to run 900 points of chainswords, and they're not going to be able to kill anything except, like I said, easy targets. I don't like them. Tycho is an in-joke from an early White Dwarf battle report, which is a shame as his mini was great and his lore is cool. Yeah, I knew it was an early joke from White Dwarf. It was actually Tony that told me that. I didn't read White Dwarf all the way back then, I guess, so I didn't know that. But I think at some point Tycho does just need dropped from our codex. Like he's a wasted half page, I guess, because as fun a joke as it was, it's sort of grown old now. Like unless they're going to redo his... Well, they're not going to redo him because he's dead, you know? So, like, if he's dead, he's dead. If we have rules for Tycho, why don't we have rules for Sanguinius? I mean, Sanguinius is just as dead, you know? It doesn't make sense to have rules for Tycho when he died in, like, years before the Indomitus Crusade, which is where we're at right now, I guess. The Outrider model is great for a captain on a bike or a chaplain on a bike conversion. If you want to see what I really think of Outriders, almost search my channel for. I think the video is probably called like "Are Outriders any good?" or something, because that was the question that a lot of people asked. If Outriders could have thunder, yeah, if they could have some weapon options, I think they would actually be okay. It's the fact it's just chainswords that puts me off, right? Like. And it puts me off pretty heavily because, like, yeah, they get a bonus on the charge, right? So they get, like, 2 additional attacks on the charge. But after that bonus falls off, they only get 10 attacks on the squad of 3 guys, right? So 150 points for 10 attacks. Well, you only hit on 3s, so you're only going to get, like, 6.6 chainsword hits. Now, if you're fighting toughness 4 guys, you're only going to wound on 4s. So you're only going to make 3.3 hits, and they're just chainswords. They're just -1 AP. So if you're not an assault doctrine, if you're earlier in the game than that, and you're just in like if you're just not an assault doctrine, then they're only going to save on 4s. So it's 3.3 hits, which becomes so they do 1.5 damage. 150 point unit does 1.5 damage in the combat phase. Like, it's terrible. It is actually just terrible. I'm sorry, I can't sugarcoat it. Like, I don't know why Outriders have no weapon options. They released like a multi-part kit, from what I understand. Sure, alright, I agree with that. Outriders are better than suppressors. But yeah, the Outriders' damage output is just poor. Just, you know, I tried using them a few times, and when I used them, you think like bikes, chainswords, fast, this is going to be great. And I played against an Ultramarines player. Colin was playing Ultramarines, and I like ran my Outriders like into a squad of aggressors, thinking like, yeah, you know, it seems like a good matchup, right? Like, you got these 5 fast bikes with chainswords, and they get these bonus attacks on charging, and you think like, you know, like, I can't let the enemy just have their aggressors shooting at me every turn, so I'm going to charge into the aggressors, and we're going to do a ton of damage. I charged into the aggressors, I didn't kill a single one, and then the aggressors killed like 2 of my Outriders with their power fists. And this was like when Outriders were only 135 points for the squad of 3, and I was like, okay... The hype of these models, like, that was before I did any of the math. I'm much more math based now on everything that I pick in my list. But when I played Outriders, I played them because I was excited to use them because they were a new unit or whatnot, and I was like, okay, new unit, but actually kind of terrible. And I hate it that Games Workshop does that. I hate it that they release new units. So I hate it when they release new units that are overpowered, but I hate it when they release new units that are terrible as well, because when they release new units that are terrible, loads of people go out and buy these new units, and then they come on the channel and they're like, hey, I bought these things, and I hope you didn't buy 6 Squads Outriders, because if you did, I feel sorry for you. Because you probably spent like $150 on Outriders, and it's like, they're actually, in my opinion, kind of trash. And if you want to play friendly, sure, that play friendly and you might do okay with them. But like my focus, I guess, mainly on this channel is winning games and playing highly competitive lists. And if anyone submits a list to the army show with Outriders in it, I'm probably just gonna say there's probably a model you could pick that would do the same job and better for less points. Or the same amount of points, I guess. You could Vanguard veterans pretty much are the exact same amount of points, and they do the same, if not better. So, all right, let's check in with some of these texture paint guys on the metal rims. All right, so this is what it looks like now with a base extender, and this texture paint, I don't think it's fully dry yet, but it is drying pretty heavily. So you can still see, if you look closely, that he has that extra rim there from that base extender. But if he's down there on the board or something, yeah, you can see it, I guess. Like, you can see it here, right? But you gotta look pretty closely for it. I mean, I could do another coat of texture paint and try and put even more texture paint in those ridges. But I'm okay with what's there. I'm just going to keep going there. Hope to see you at next year's London Grand Tournament. I will probably not be at the Grand Tournament next year. The tickets already went on sale. My wife's having another baby, Nick, and yeah, maybe the year after. I would like to go the year after. I don't know if you've got kids yourself, but it's a big ask to ask your wife to look after the kids all week while you're working, and then say at the weekend, hey, I'm going to go play Warhammer all weekend. Have fun looking after those kids. It's a big ask. My wife would probably do it for me. I know she would, but at the same time, I'm not. In my relationship, things are pretty fair. We try and share things, so I'm not. I'm just gonna probably won't be at any tournaments next year because the baby will be less than 1 year old. Once the baby's 1, maybe I'll get to a tournament the year after. So I got, unless it's local, of course. Like if there's a tournament really close that I don't have to go away and stay overnight at, yeah, that's fine. We can do that. Because sometimes I actually have to travel for work as well. So like sometimes throughout the year, like the year before the pandemic hit, I was away for work for like 9 nights. So it's quite a lot being stuck with a 1-year-old by yourself for like 9 nights. But yeah, maybe the year after, almost. You're the provider and the feeder of the farm. Yeah, sure. But I mean, yeah, I don't know. Have you got kids, Camille? My wife told me to come back with my shield on it anytime I want to play in a tournament. I'm with you. Yeah, no, my wife's pretty great. She's very understanding like that, but at the same time, like I don't know. So we have a 2-year-old, and she's pretty tantrumy at the moment. You know, like she gets upset and she goes and just screams around and she hits the walls and all this sort of nonsense. So it can test your patience, I guess. And if you've got no one else to ever help with that, if you're dealing with that yourself 24/7 for a week, yeah, sometimes you just need time out, right? And I guess that's that's where we are. Yeah, you're 100% right. Team effort. So yeah, I really enjoyed going to the tournament that I went to just a few months back, and I've got this other tournament I think in like 4 weeks time or something. But then after that, for probably the first year of having one more baby, I probably just won't go to any tour. I'll just try and limit my travel. Like I won't even go. Like I have some friends from university and stuff that I go see on the weekends sometimes. You know, just go for a beer or something like that. Like I just won't do any of that for like a year. But I mean that's, you know, it's our choice to have the kids or whatnot. So. But it's fine. You know what? Maybe we'll try and get some guests to come on the channel. I have some ideas about some people I would love to get on the channel for games. So maybe that's something we'll try in next year. If I'm not going to any tournaments, we'll try and get some special guests on the channel. We'll try and get some more armies on the channel and stuff as well. And we may even buy some armies for the channel, I guess, because none of my friends, I can't seem to get a reliable Drukhari player for the channel. I've tried for a while now, so maybe we will just invest in a Drukhari army, which we will use on the channel. I appreciate the support, Victoria. Yeah, it is a. I don't know. Some of my friends wouldn't. I don't know. I guess I respect my wife. That's literally the bottom line, and I feel like in this day and age, you probably, you know, yeah, that's it. It's a good thing to have respect for your wife, I guess. But yeah, no, I really appreciate you saying that. I got a 5-year-old that tantrums like that. She's past her warranty date, so I can't get a refund. Oh yeah, I know. I've been trying to say to her like we don't do tantrums, and sometimes she's like we won't do tantrums, but sometimes she doesn't. And because we're moving house at the moment, there's a lot of stress. The other day, I can't remember who it was. It was me or my wife said like, "Oh Jesus Christ." Which is, I guess it's not really a swear. It's not a swear word, so to speak, but it is taking the Lord's name in vain. And I guess some people, you keep ignoring my TTS suggestions. I don't like the idea of TTS, Reziel. I just don't. I don't know why. I like playing with the models. I think the issue I would get is that I would be distracted. I don't know. I feel like it's gonna. I don't know. There's something about TTS that just doesn't appeal to me. Can we get Tony to give us a channel video on how many dreadnoughts he has and why that number isn't enough? I mean, I'm sure Tony would love to talk to you about his dreadnoughts sometimes. We can try. Hey, Krychek, how you doing? Yeah, I know tantrums are because they can't express themselves, right? So I know that you're supposed to sort of let them play it out and stuff like that. But yeah, we're trying, I guess. But yeah, no, I want to get to some more tournament. Like, I felt like I did really well at that tournament just past. Actually, I was really pleased. I would have been even more pleased if we'd managed to do the whole 5-0 thing. And we weren't far away from it. We really weren't. But Andrew was actually saying, I don't know if any of you guys in the chat went to London Grand Tournament, but Andrew was saying that there was no space at all at the London Grand Tournament. So he said, like, when models were dying and stuff, you were literally having to put them on the floor or put them on a chair. and Andrew actually dropped one of them when he was putting it down, or he kicked one of them or something, and someone and like an additional table like next to him almost stood on it. He said it was a nightmare. So I don't know what that was about. Like they just had too many people for the size of the venue, or what? Gitley was at the London Grand Tournament. He hangs out in this channel sometimes. Do you know what? I'll ask him next time he's around. What was going on with that at the London Grand Tournament, because it sounded pretty nightmarish. I don't really know why either. I think Dex bought 9 relic contemptors. Wow, like the Blood Angels ones, or what? You know what? Now that when you say that, Residual, it's one of those things. Probably like if I downloaded it and gave it a fair shot, I'd probably quite like it. I think the thing I have. I think the thing I probably have is like it's probably the time, right? Like I probably just don't have time to play any more Warhammer per week than I already do. You know, like, and that comes down to my own choice of having kids, right? Like, so on a Monday, for example, I go to work. I start work at 8 o'clock in the morning. I come home at about 5:30. I have dinner and I go back out to play Warhammer. So, you know, that's already pretty good of my wife to let me do that. Like like she literally doesn't see me on Monday. She has the kids all day. If we have new kids, which we're gonna have, she's gonna have the kids all day on the Mondays as well. So, even if I downloaded TTS, I don't know where I would find any more time than I already have. So yeah, it's part of it is like I'm not sure about TTS. Part of it is like probably just don't have the time to do it. I think it's that I probably don't feel like I have the time to learn how to use TTS. But yeah, maybe it's not as complicated as I think it might be. Alright, I'm getting on pretty well with this guy. He's a fun little model. I think I could go a little bit more on this arm. But at the same time, I've got a few other models I need to get painted for this tournament, so I'm going to start heading towards wrapping this guy pretty soon in terms of like completing his paint job, I guess. Yeah, that's true, Reziel. Do you know what? We will, if we don't get some of these other armies, I'll do like a joint project with like Andrew in that, because we have this joint Warhammer room now. So we'll team up. We'll all take some models and we'll paint up the armies that we don't have. I mean, for going to future tournaments, we're gonna need that anyway, right? Because like when I played against Harlequins, like I had to do a lot of learning on my feet in that game, and like some of it was like probably luck, because some of it's probably luck, and some of it was like at one point I made a charge into some Harlequin units and they just absolutely slaughtered me. With I think it was actually my Inceptors that charged, and like if I'd known how strong they were in combat, I would have been like, right, I guess I just won't charge them. But yeah, they absolutely slaughtered my Inceptors, and it was like a very small squad of guys, and I just didn't expect it at all. I think they maybe even fought first. I think that was maybe what happened. Like I charged a squad of Harlequins, they fought first, and they killed like 2 of my Inceptors, and I was like, oh wow, okay. Won't make that mistake again. But as I say it now, I don't remember the name of the models, so probably will end up making that mistake again, because it's the first time I'd played Harlequins in 9th edition, right? I'm building a golden captain on a bike with a thunderhammer. Great. I love golden captains on a bike with thunderhammer. I feel like I pioneered that build. I don't know if I did, but I feel like I pioneered that build. I told everybody to use it multiple times in multiple videos, and then everybody's been using it since. So maybe I didn't pioneer it, but I feel like I did. The manipulator arm should have hazard stripes. Oh, this arm should have hazard stripes. Oh man. Do you know what? I've done other models with hazard stripes, and I was planning on doing these chain fists with hazard stripes, but I think this guy is too far gone for it, honestly. It didn't have hazard stripes on any of the box art for the Primaris Tech Marine, did it? Or is that just you just think it should have had hazard stripes because why not? Because hazard stripes are cool, right? It would look pretty cool. Yeah, do you know what? It would look pretty cool. I don't think I did hazard stripes on my regular Tech Marine's big arm either, though. You know that? So maybe in some ways that helps me out. I am gonna say no to hazard stripes. I like the idea, but yeah, I'm a little bit on clock for this next tournament, and that I need to finish painting this. And I need to finish these 5 Terminators that we just put the bases on over here, and I need to finish 5 Incursors, and I need to move house. So I guess if you told me that at the very start, I might have done it. It would have looked cooler. It would have given him more contrasts, or it would have given him, yeah, it would have given him more contrasts, more colors, I guess. But what can you do, I guess? Do you take Hammer of Baal? Everything looks better in hazard stripes, yeah. I actually don't take Hammer of Baal. I take Gift of Foresight, which lets you reroll 1 hit and 1 wound. And on your captain, where you've got, what is it, like 6 hits, hitting on 3s, you're probably going to get 4 hits, right? So your Gift of Foresight will let you reroll 1, I guess. Is it perfect? No. I mean, I guess the Hammer of Baal would get you 1 more hit, but I prefer my character to be survivable, and by running him with Adamantium Mantle, it makes him crazy survivable. Oh, thanks, Mark. Yeah, I mean, it would have 100% given him more contrast, I guess, but yeah, you can't. I guess you can't win them all. So what I like to do after I've done the eyes with, I use moot green in the eyes. What I like to do is get like a really, really watered down bit of warpstone glow and just kind of go over the top a little bit. It just because I put down the coat of warpstone first, and then the moot green sort of into the center socket. Something like that. Doesn't matter how hard you hit if you're dead. That's very true. And 9th edition is all about survival. Survival and objectives, survival for assassination, potentially for while we stand, we fight, all that sort of stuff. So it's coming up quarter to midnight here. I'm going to paint for about 15 more minutes, guys, and then I'm going to call it. I'm going to be back tomorrow, though, as we are every Sunday, to talk about army lists. And then we're also going to be back on Monday night. I don't know who I'm playing yet on Monday. I will find out. I messaged earlier in the chat room to find out who wants to play on Monday. So I should know by tomorrow. I don't know if we were going to be playing Kev's super heavy tank, his Eldar one, but Kev had to ditch on me last minute, unfortunately. So we may try and rematch that Craft World super heavy. I think it's called the Scorpion. But if we can't get that game, I guess we'll see. We'll see. And maybe we'll run Mephiston one last time, because people really want me to play Mephiston one more time. I think he's really, really difficult to make work, though. And I don't know if it's just his discipline, like if the problem is just the discipline, and the Space Marine discipline is just that much better. But I guess we'll find out. Good night, Mark, and good night, Tony. Thanks for hanging out tonight. Nice to see you guys. I'm going to get another wash. Reichland Flesh. I like to wash all my gold with Reichland Flesh Shade. This guy doesn't have too much gold on him, so I don't need much, but oh, excuse me. That's too much. But yeah, Primaris Tech Marine is definitely a cool model. I like it. It's one of the few usable Primaris characters that I've had the opportunity to paint. You know that, because I've painted a lot of Primaris captains, lieutenants, I guess even chaplains. But like when they don't have jump packs, you end up painting them and then they just sit in a drawer, like, you know. So I painted all the Primaris captains and nonsense like that came in like the Indomitus boxes and other boxes. But because they don't have jump packs, it's like, well, I don't tend to use them in my army list, so they've literally sat in drawers. So at least this is a nice character that I've painted that like actually finds his way into army lists, I guess. Do you know what? The Primaris Librarian is very cool, and so is the Phobos one. And the Phobos one, I guess you could argue that could be useful because of his forward deployment, but yeah, it's kind of they have kind of the same problem, I guess. The librarians and stuff. It's just like, because they don't have jump packs. Our army kind of relies on jump packs. So when a unit doesn't have a jump pack, I guess if you paint it, you don't always tend to use it, right? And I have a bunch of, like probably so many, like 5 or 6 Primaris lieutenants painted, probably like 5 or 6 Primaris captains painted with different loadouts, and like you just don't use them because they just don't have jump packs, which I guess is something that maybe GW will fix at some point sooner rather than later. These guys have these little ammo shells on their bases, which is kind of cool as well. So we'll paint these silver. And then we're going to wash this whole base a couple of times in like Nuln Oil. Just to give it the effect that it's a really like gnarly planet, I guess. Dirty, dark, grim dark, I guess, even one could say. But yeah, there was an Astaroth book actually that came out this year. Like it was a special edition book, circling back on the lore topic that came up earlier. And I actually didn't manage to pick up a copy of that Astaroth book. I don't know if I've spoken to anyone that's actually read it, because sometimes when they do those limited edition books, they sell out super fast. Like I planned to get it, but like it sold out in like the first like, I don't know, half an hour or something. I like Agrax Earthshade. Yeah, so I use Agrax Earthshade on all my red. So my red guys get Earthshaded down, and I guess if you put these guys side by side, hopefully the Tech Marine looks a little bit more gnarly than this guy. So I use Agrax Earthshade on my red. I use Reichland Fleshshade on my gold, and then I use Nuln Oil on all my silvers and blacks. And for bases, I use Agrax, and I use Agrax on all the sand, which is, I guess, what needs to go over these guys now. This actually feels like it could be kind of dry, so we could do that tomorrow. But on this sort of stuff here, like this, I guess this is, I don't even know what you would call this grey stuff. I guess it's rubble, is it? On over all this rubble, I'll put Nuln Oil. So I put 2 coats of Nuln Oil. So like washes tend to pool in places, I guess, right? So when you're painting washes over like big flat areas like this, they can definitely pool, and I guess leave those sort of like horrible tidy marks. So yeah, I'll give them a coat, and then sometimes I even mix the original color that I had down with the wash again, and then repaint it. So like in this case, it was Dawnstone, so I'll like mix a little bit of Dawnstone into some Nuln Oil, so there's like a hint of the original color in the wash, and then I'll rewash it a second time over anywhere that like ended up with like that tide mark effect. And usually you can fix it and sort of get it look a bit more consistent, and still pick out a lot of the details, I guess. Do you put washes on your bases? Yeah, after the texture paint, or in this case, on this sort of like raised edge, yeah, I put washes on all the bases. On this raised stuff, I always tend to paint it silver or grey, I guess, and then Nuln Oil a couple of coats over it. Good evening, Highland. You are literally here for the last 2 minutes. Were you at the bar or something tonight? How come what have you been doing to keep you busy until 2 minutes to midnight? Must be an exciting story about that. Oh, you were maybe out watching the football. Were you a fan of football? You want to be careful with those Terminators. Wash is going to pool in the gap for the original base meeting the extension. Yeah, I mean, I have done guys with the base extenders before, and I guess maybe I need to keep an eye on them. I guess we'll find out. But yeah, I did a bunch with the base extenders before and felt like it felt like it went pretty well. So I guess we'll see if these ones feel like they go well as well. But yeah, it's. I'm probably gonna do that wash next time. Just make sure the texture paint's 100% dry before I try and wash it, you know? "2 Minutes to Midnight," where did I hear that before? It's a Linkin Park album, is it not? Or maybe that's Minutes to Midnight. Then I don't know what 2 Minutes to Midnight is. Maybe it's like a pop culture or movie or something. Oh, it's an Iron Maiden song? Oh, I feel like I'll let myself down. I know some of Iron Maiden. I liked Ghost of the Navigator. Do you know that one? I like the riff in it. Sometimes I wish I could listen to like music on this channel while we paint that's not like royalty free, you know? But I guess on YouTube it has to be royalty free music. What album is 2 Minutes to Midnight on? I actually haven't listened to all that many Iron Maiden albums. I think the reason I got that Ghost of the Navigator album, I don't know if you remember the song Wicker Man. That was like a big hit in the UK chart, Wicker Man. I don't know why, because I feel like Iron Maiden didn't have that many songs that like charted that well. But Wicker Man was the abnormal one, I think. It charted really highly in the UK for some reason. Yeah, that looks pretty good on that base. Kind of hard to see with the lighting here, but looks pretty decent. So I'll probably put the texture paint down on the rest of the base now, and then that'll be it. Do you know what? I left my brush that I was doing the texture paint earlier in the stream in the other room. I'm gonna go grab it. I'm gonna put the texture paint on this other, and then that's gonna be me. I'm gonna call it a night. I'll be right back. Do you dry brush the base too? Yeah, I dry brush with Tyrant Skull. So we do Armageddon Dust, then we do Agrax Earthshade, and I've got some that kind of like I did before just off camera here. So this has had the Agrax Earthshade and the Armageddon Dust done on it. These ones just have had the Armageddon Dust, so you can see the difference between what the Agrax does to the texture paint. And then afterwards, I dry brush Tyrant Skull, which is like a Tyrant Skull. I think is the same color as Ushabti Bone, but like a really light dye brush. What did I say there? I was trying to say really light dry brush, like just enough that we're like just enough that we're picking up like the tops of the grains of sand or whatever you would call it, I guess. No, that's way too much water. Shit. And when I'm putting texture paint along these sort of bits, you know, like the raised areas on the bases, normally, like when I'm doing the texture paint near the model's feet and stuff, I'm trying really hard not to touch the model's feet so that I still get those rims of black. Because I paint basically around, I paint the rims of all my shoes on all my guys, all the boots. So like red guys get a black rim, black guys get like a I usually I think I usually use Fenrisian grey for my black. So black guys get like a Fenrisian grey, red guys get like a black, and then golden guys usually get like the Evil Sun Scarlet red. So all my guys get a red. All my guys get the rim around their bases painted in a different color from the bodies, and then I tried very hard not to touch them. And if for some reason we do end up touching, I go back and try and tidy it up. And I know some people just prefer to like paint the texture paint like up their boots a bit. Like it's almost like so they've been like walking through the boot. They've been walking through the mud or whatever on the planet, so it makes sense that like the texture paint is up their legs a bit, you know, and it means that you don't have to be so worried about mistakes because it's like, well, he's been walking on the planet anyway, so he's going to have that texture paint on his legs, right? Because he's been like Space Marines are generally quite I guess I actually don't know the weight of a Space Marine, but I imagine they're quite heavy. So if they're walking on sand, they're definitely going to sink in a bit, right? But I guess my view of it is that maybe they've just come out the drop pod or they've just landed or something, and their armor's pretty clean, I guess. Or I just made the wrong call when I first started doing this and tried to make everything look perfect, and now I have to continue with that plan, even though it would be quicker to be a bit messier. I even put smudges up as far under the arms at times. Yeah, I mean that would have been the way to do it, right? And then you could cover up any mistake you've got could be covered up with the texture paint. But well, apparently I've made it difficult for myself. I think this is what, on average, to paint a single model, I worked it out how long I paint every month and how many guys I complete every month, and it's about 8 hours per guy. So I'm literally the slowest person on the planet at painting. So I did the final highlight on my Blade Guard veterans. Congratulations, Camille. I know what it feels like when you get those final highlights done on a model, and it can be very rewarding. So, congrats. Share a picture in the members only room with me. All the people that are in. We should have a rule that in the members only room, whenever you finish a model, you post it in the members only room, because that's where I spend most of my time. And it's not that I don't care about the other channels on Discord. It's that like I literally spend 3 or 4 nights every week making YouTube videos. So I only have like the only time I'm looking at Discord is like I guess just my time for Discord is limited because I'm always making YouTube videos, and like when I say I'm always this week's video, you know, like so tomorrow is Sunday, I'll basically start making Friday's tactics video tomorrow night. So I'll script it, I'll make slides, and then I'll film it like so I'm always busy Monday night playing, so on Tuesday nights I'll film it, on Wednesday nights I'll try and edit, and then Thursday night I'm back here like hobby hangout. So yeah. But so I make sure that I'm up to date on the members only channel, but because I want to make sure that you guys that support me month on month, you're the reason that I can do this channel. So I always want to make sure that I'm answering your guys' questions and stuff. But it would be cool if there was an unwritten rule of the road when people finish a model. When members finish a model, they can post them into the members only room so that I can see them. Because I was talking the other night, we're gonna have a little painting competition here on the channel in the next couple of weeks or month. Maybe like within the next month there'll be a competition for painting. So it'll be Blood Angels only, I guess, painting competition. So that'll be coming with a very unique Blood Angels model to give away. But alright, yeah, it's like 10 past midnight, so I am going to be calling it, guys. Thank you so much for being here. I hope to see some of you guys tomorrow, and I'm sure I'll see some of you guys on the Monday live stream. As always, thank you for hanging out. Thanks for the support. I hope I answered some questions. Should I magnetize backpacks for the assault intercessors? Do you know what? That is a good question. But also a tough question to answer, I guess. Everybody is hoping, I think, that Primaris troops get backpack. Of course they get backpacks. What am I saying? It's 10 past midnight. Cut me some slack. I would say yes, because it's gonna save you money somehow, right? Like, when they release Primaris jump packs, which I'm sure they're gonna do, you're gonna have to buy something. It's gonna be tough because they might only release them like in boxes where you have to spend like $5. Sorry, you have to buy the box and you get 5 guys with only 5 jetpacks. But I guess it was, if you magnetize them, then you could have the options of making those other 5 guys with different weapon loadouts. Then you wouldn't have to magnetize arms. I think so. I think it will help you. I haven't done it. But yeah, it's impossible to say. I don't know what they're doing. If you asked me a year ago, I was convinced what Highland Phoenix was saying, that we were going to get Primaris Dante and Primaris Sanguigard in a box. I was convinced we were going to get it last edition after I saw the Marneus Collar box. So right now, I do not know what's happening. Thank you so much, Brandon, for subscribing. Appreciate it. I am taking off. I'll be back tomorrow afternoon, guys. Hopefully I'll see some of you guys then. Have a good evening. Thanks for hanging out. I hope you enjoyed the Tech Marine. He is making some strides towards being finished. And once we give us jump packs, we will never take them off, so no need to magnetize, just cut them off and reglue. That's a good point as well, I suppose. The other... See, I have like 20 assault intercessors that I haven't built yet. And I was kind of thinking about making them into Death Company assault intercessors, but the same thing comes, like, if I make 20 Death Company assault intercessors and I paint them all, then what happens if Primaris finally get jump packs? Yeah, it's a really tough one. It's never a bad idea to magnetize stuff though. Like I've never once gone like, oh shit, I magnetized this guy. What a nightmare, you know? Yeah, exactly what you just said, Highland. So probably you should just do it. Worst case, you've got them. If it takes 2 years for Games Workshop to do it, you've still got them. I think the other way you'll regret it, if you do the magnets, I guess there's nothing ever to regret. But alright, I'll see you guys tomorrow afternoon, live at 4 PM for the Army List show. Thanks again for watching. Enjoyed hanging out with you. Next time, Highland, you need to be here earlier. We could have talked about the Scotland game. I hope you watched it. But we'll talk to you guys later. Have a good evening. Peace.